So, Martin, welcome. It's been a little while, and you're telling me that you were sick
Yes.
and trying to practice the Dhamma when you're sick. That's actually Bhikkhu Buddhadasa says that being sick is an excellent opportunity to practice
Yeah.
Anapanasati, especially in the sense that we can reverse the direction of influence. Okay, that you see that happen in politics when the guys on charge give a lot of propaganda and tell people, oh, you got to do this, that, and the other thing. And then finally the people get tired of it and they turn around and say, no, we're the boss here. Okay. The example of that is happening in the United States is both with birth control and with guns. That finally people are beginning to turn around and say, no, we're not going to do it according to the way that we were told to do it. All right. So, the normal way then that the mind works in this regard of being sick is when the body is sick, we feel sick. And when we feel sick, we think sick. And now we're really sick because the mind and the feeling and the body are all in unison about how bad we feel. And this is when, I mean, people can really go downhill. We really do talk ourselves into really getting sick, or we can talk ourselves back out of it, which is the other side to turn things around by having the wholesome thoughts of, oh, I really like being sick right now. This is good enough. Yeah, the body feels terrible, but I can handle it. I'm still the boss here. Okay, so those would be the kind of wholesome thoughts that we would have. And then we could have also the nurturing thoughts for the body is that it's okay to be sick. Never mind, you'll get over it really fast. Just go through it and get over it. And so these are the kind of wholesome thoughts and wholesome language that we can have while we're sick. If we know we've got a choice, because most people, they don't know if they even have a choice. They think that because the body is sick, the mind is sick, the feelings are sick, everything is sick, and they have no choice about it because they're the victim.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Um, you know, last time we talked about the fact that sometimes we do the stuff, even the Dhamma, because we're told to do, and
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't work because we don't do it wholehearted. You don't do it because you want to do it. You do it because you think you have to do it. When I was sick, I realized how much I was talking myself into feeling bad, because when I was ardent, and I was really guarding my mind, it was okay, and it sometimes feel very great. But
Mm-hmm.
then if I just let the place unguarded, after that I was really feeling anxious, like I'm gonna die. The fever's gonna rise up into the skies. I was worried about my wife because she was sick too, and I was afraid she's gonna die too. Or it's not a big, it's not a big sickness. So I'm what I learned during the sickness was also that now when I'm practicing, I'm really practicing because I want to, because I know I know I have maybe it's an insight that it's true and it's good, and I don't just do that because you said, or because I heard you have to do that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you know me on that.
Well, that's in fact what the Buddha talks about in many places. One would be the Kalama Sutta, which has that famous passage. Uh, and I think there's a list of 10, but I don't remember all 10 of them. But things like do not go because of tradition,
Yeah.
do not do it because of common knowledge, don't do it because it's written in a book, don't do it because your teacher said it, don't even do it because it seems good or because it's the way that we already believed. And so any of that kind of stuff then leads up to, well, what that means is that the only thing left is a deep investigation.
Yes.
Yes, we have to go and look and keep looking. And if we don't get it yet, we keep looking, that we don't come to a conclusion based upon spotty evidence. We've been doing that all along. We started doing it in childhood. You can kind of imagine that the human mind is not fully developed, fully functioning when the child is there, like a 3-year-old. So a 3-year-old literally does not think with wisdom. They don't think straight. So the child then will take the easy way out by doing it according to the way that he's told by adults, especially since they've got the force of their words. You know, they're the big guys. They could do what they want to do. And so you got to go along to get along and that kind of thing. And so this is an important point because we start off as a victim, and that we're a victim to our own inadequate mind, we're a victim to our own undeveloped body, and we're a victim to the feelings. And so we remain kind of that way. And so that's a natural state for us to get into when we're sick, is that we revert back to that old undeveloped mind state that does then feel like the victim of whatever bug or whatever it is. Uh, and so we can turn, if we can remember, we can turn that process back around. We can say, hang on, wait a minute, and this is the phrase that I use. I like this one. Just because the body is sick doesn't mean the mind has to be sick. That I still have a choice. The mind can be good even though the body is really sick. Even though the body feels bad and the feelings are there, doesn't mean that I have to feel bad because of the stiffness, the aches, the pain, the weakness, all of that. That in fact we could just say, hey, wait a minute, I could just lay here and just enjoy this state. Begin to enjoy just letting the body rest and heal itself. So be nurturing. But you see, the other way around is that everybody needs nurturing. The mind needs nurturing, the feelings need nurturing, the body needs nurturing, everybody's sick. No nurturers around. But when we wake up, now we can start that mind up to do the kind of nurturing that needs to be done. Okay?
Right.
That's the way that we can manage being sick, is by liking it, enjoying it, resting dearly, easily.
And also, when I was sick, I realized that I was sometimes really pushing myself too much. But when I was sick, I just have to rest. In fact, so it was really a realization to see that I was really pushing too much. Like, and now that I'm no longer sick, I can still see it in my everyday life. That sometimes I do stuff too much by habit, and
Mm-hmm.
not enough at what is actually what I'm actually doing now. I don't know if you.
Right. So we can, in fact, start to develop new habits once we can see the effects of the old ones.
Yes.
That this is the major part. This is, in fact, is what separates the Dhamma dude from the ordinary people, is that the Dhamma dude knows that it's up to him to change his own mind, that nobody else can do that for us. There's no religion, no saints, no gurus, no magical pills, no reds and blues, and any of that kind of stuff. It's we've got to put in the right effort, the easy effort, but the right effort to change that mind out of being sick into being, all right, it's okay.
And
Go ahead.
oh no, sorry. Go.
Um, it really is all about attitude, and that we can nurture the right attitude. This is actually what the Eightfold Noble Path is really all about when you understand it correctly, which is actually out of Sutra number 117. And that is to understand that Sati and remembering and looking and investigating and then making a change, which is basically what we're talking about here, is to wake up, remember, to look at the mind and see all the mind is being affected because the body is sick. Let's make a change to that. And when we do make that change, now we begin also to change our attitude. And the
Yes.
attitude then becomes, oh, I can be happily when I'm sick. I can be happily sick. There's no problem with that. Yeah, the body's going to be sick. I can't stop the body from being sick, but I can certainly enjoy it. I can enjoy this show too. But that's a,
Um,
go ahead.
I wanted to ask you because you know when the fever become when I was too tired and the fever come up, I couldn't sometimes keep with the wholesome thought. I was, you know, in the dreamy state. But I wanted to ask you if after a time the mind is kind of inclining into the. Oh, sorry, I'm asking a question, but I realize you already answer that after a while the mind is in the pasture. That's what you say of
Uh-huh.
wholesome, so it's more easy.
Yes. So the big point is always the sati. Can you remember that you're
Yes.
wallowing in self-pity when you're sick? Can you remember that you're laying here feeling bad about feeling bad and talking about it and thinking bad feelings because we feel bad? If we can remember to look, to wake up and take a look at what we're doing, that's the whole key. This is why I recommend the students practice often, several times a day, rather than one great big long setting, because it's sati that we're trying to develop as a skill, not putting in wall clock hours, right? That we're
Yes.
trying to develop this skill to remember, to remember, to remember, to come back and be here now, to wake up, look at what's going on. Because uh, let us say it like this: if you were sick today, then basically the body would be sick all day long. As for the ordinary person, then the feelings would be bad kind of all day long. Anytime you look at the feelings, yeah, I feel bad. Anytime then that we would look at the mind, if we did look at the mind, you'd say, oh, yeah, it feels bad too. And so we've got all day, which means actually that's good because now we have the advantage of having all day to remember to wake up. And whenever we start to remember to wake up and start looking at what we're doing and making a change to the mind and feeling good about it, that'll help the next time because you would really much rather be in this state than the way that we were when we weren't
Yes.
watching what was going on. And knowing
Yes.
that, we'll say, I am going to remember. I am going to remember. We put some enthusiasm into it, which is actually part of that winner's attitude. We change our attitude about it. Gosh, I'm going to watch that stuff now. I'm going to catch it. You know, that's the new kind of attitude that we're getting, that we can
Yeah.
handle that sickness. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes. And for and that change, it's it's changing like also everything in the day because even in my work or in difficult situation, I've got that confidence that I can return to the wholesome state
Mm-hmm.
and that I can do something. I'm not I'm not a baby anymore. I can say that.
Yes, that's exactly right. That we're not a baby in that helpless sense, but we can return to childhood in the curiosity sense, in the openness, because now we actually have an adult brain that we didn't have when we were kids. We were working on, let us say, not yet fully developed or produced computing equipment. It's almost like that they delivered your laptop before they put the processor in it. And that the processor has to be developed over time. But now that you've got that processor, let's go back and be a kid again. Let everything be fresh and open and new and worthy of our investigation. That in fact, when we were kids, we got sick and we didn't like it, and we didn't know that we had these tools way back when. So we actually learned to be miserable when we were sick when we were kids. So now let's go back into that childhood state and rewire that thing to where, wow, it's really delightful. I get a day off. I don't have to go do anything. Mommy's going to take care of me, all of that kind of stuff, and put a really nice glow on it. You just let the body just relax. Oh, it's okay to be sick.
Yes, and also there's a lot of stuff that I was doing, correctly. I was trying to do it so the result would be right,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm way more open to experimenting, to curiosity, to try stuff because I'm not afraid of the result. I'm not so. I'm more interested in you would say, in the process, and so there's a lot of stuff that are opening up.
Right, that we sort of dispense with the rules about how things should be.
Yeah.
Those rules, by the way, we picked them up and learned them when we were ignorant. We didn't know whether these rules were worthwhile or not. So now that we're adults and we're paying attention, we can say, wait a minute, these rules need to be either tweaked or chucked, one or the other. And so right now, let's chuck those rules and go back and rewrite them based upon a new investigation.
Yeah.
Okay?
And
That
that's
the
crazy.
original investigation was flawed. So now let's do a new investigation. They do that with all kinds of things on a scientific basis. The new James Webb telescope is really throwing a monkey wrench into classical physics because they're seeing things that they didn't expect. Well, that's good. Keep observing. Don't keep thinking you know what the universe is. There's stuff we don't know yet. And the same thing is true about the fact that people don't know that they can feel good while they're sick. Just let the body be sick,
Yeah.
heal itself, nurture it well, and enjoy your time. Oh, this feels so good to just do nothing.
I wanted to ask you something. Sometime when I'm practicing, I'm looking at the mental image I got. Like a mental screen, and you've got a mental image.
And
Images in your.
yes, uh-huh.
And sometimes it seems that it's like a constant flow. It's like always there, always flowing. Um,
Well, here's
so
here's a way of looking at it. You don't know if it's always there. You can just say that it's there every time you notice. You notice
yes,
that it's there.
that's better. Yes. Um, I don't remember my question. I think it was.
Well, here's the
Uh,
way of thinking about it, okay? There um, I know I'm getting a little technical in the Pali right now, but the in the first jhana, the applied and sustained thought that I talk about so much actually has an alternate view or an
okay.
alternate understanding. And the alternate understanding is that the Pali words have to do with vicha and voka.
Okay.
Vicha is the word that we have for vision, and voka has the word for voice. And what this is actually implying is that images will flash and then we will have a dialogue about it. Or we try to tell ourselves a story about the picture that we just painted. And sometimes it's one flash after another because, in fact, we're telling ourselves a story with not much language, just a series of images, almost like our own video.
Okay.
And so the thing to do is to begin to wake up to when those images show up, you can actually now see them. you can begin to see how the mind works. You can begin to see this, what we're talking about, salayatana, this internal image.
Okay.
Now, there's one little side point that's worth mentioning, and that is that the salayatana cannot do what it has already been programmed to do, in the sense that um, it does, the salayatana cannot give you data about microwaves because we cannot receive microwaves through our senses.
Okay.
But we can do sight, but only a very limited sight. We found that, in fact, a whole lot of animals have a different way of seeing. One of them is that the eagle is, they call about an eagle eye. The eagle is highly tuned, his eyesight, to movement. So if that mouse way down maybe a mile below is wiggling, the eagle's going to see him. The mouse needs to be still, and then the eagle don't see him. All right. So the eagle eye is actually based upon motion. Here's another example. The eye of the bee that collects honey is different, and that when flowers are, let us say, denectared, they change color. And humans cannot see that change in the color, but the bees can. So the bees can fly right over an entire field of flowers and tell which ones have not been picked yet. But a human can't do that. We would have to sit there in that field and pull up every flower and check to see if we'd kill every flower rather than just denectar it, okay? And so
Okay.
that's because we don't have that kind of eyesight. So the humans are actually limited, and that what we can see in the mind is only what we've been able to see with our eyes and record it.
Okay.
The same thing is true about sound. That, in fact, one of the things that I saw a video of was that they were going out on the street and asking people to sing into the reporter's microphone a particular song that was current or that they knew or whatever like that. Then they took it back and put it through voice analysis to find that most of the people sang the song that they knew so well in the right key, at the right tempo, and with mostly the right phrasing. Isn't that amazing? That when we
Yeah.
remember, we actually remember exactly what we heard. But over time, if we haven't heard the song in a long time or we didn't learn it well, then any of that kind of stuff can get really sloppy in the mind. Our hearing or our memories of hearing fades, which is another point to recognize is that human memory is not very good.
No.
Human memory is not very good at all. But we think that we remember. I mean, we think that our thoughts are ours and our thoughts are good, when in fact our thoughts are generally based upon rotten information. We didn't get it in correctly in the first place. We stored it wrong and we brought it out in order to fit this situation, and we do that messed up. So that whole process of understanding that memory is quite a problem. Let's be here now and get new data.
And could those mental image, uh, um, could they be unwholesome, or it's the talk, the interpretation that are unwholesome of this image?
I would say that it is not necessarily unwholesome, but likely so. All right. And that basically, when you're actually being in the present moment and checking, let us say that you're repairing a computer and you see something and then you remember an incident way in the past. Or maybe you're trying to splice two wires together and you remember the image of how to splice wires so that you can splice them right now. That kind of imagery, you absolutely need it. It's not just wholesome, it's necessary, okay, to be able to remember things. How to drive, for instance, or a piano player that knows how to remember the music. And sometimes it's absolutely spectacular that people can remember a piece of music that goes on. Very complicated. Every second is complicated for 17, 18 minutes. it's also quite amazing that the monks can chant. Some of the monks can chant and chant and chant. It's unbelievable they're so good because all these student monks are there with their books checking this old master. Is he saying every word right? Okay, so the human mind is capable, but it's capable when it's been trained. And we
Okay.
don't, and none of our educational systems teach a child how to, or teach the child to train their own mind. That this is one of the things that makes Buddhism quite unique, is this whole ability to train the mind and to change it with this one little preposition of remember, to look at what you're doing and make a change or an improvement to it. Come out of your unwholesome thoughts into the wholesome thoughts. Okay? So having images like that, like how to splice a wire or any of the examples that we can think of, are absolutely wholesome. But now we're saying that we're laying here in bed sick and we start having images of caskets and coffins. Or maybe the joke is don't go to a doctor whose clinic is next door to a funeral home. You know, that kind of mentality. So look at the kind of thoughts that we're having, because those images can flash by so fast and make us feel bad without even knowing that we've had those kind of images flash into the mind. So being quick, this is part of what we're actually talking about, is learning how to be quick enough with Sati. Okay, so a quick review. There's three kinds of Sati skills. The first one is to wake up often, to keep coming back and keep coming back, to make it unremitting. The second skill is the strength of the Sati, to actually wake up. If we wake up weakly, then the effort is strong. But if we wake up strongly, then the effort is little bit of
Oh,
effort, okay?
it's
Right.
inverted.
hmm And then the third quality, which is the one that we're looking at, is how fast is it? Can we see those images as they fly by? And you're beginning to say, yes, you can see them. Okay, so now you're beginning to get the mind down to the speed that it needs to be able to check those images out and see them one at a time. So I'd recommend that you start looking at these images in order to make a change to them. See them as put that, because we start with the discursive thought, the constructions. Okay, now we're going down to the basic frame, or not even the framework. We're talking about the basic building materials, which are all of these images that we keep coming up with. Let's begin to make them wholesome also.
Okay. Because sometimes it's almost like a river of images.
Mm-hmm. Right,
Very
and we
quick.
but we can learn to control the flow of those images.
Okay.
Okay, the example would be the images are in a flow, but it doesn't have to be a muddy water flow. It can be a clear water flow. You can actually begin to change the image, the way that the images affect you. And one of the ways of doing that is by beginning to imagine things the way that they are right here and right now. Here's an example of that, and this comes out of the old Kasina meditations of let us say, look out the window and see a particular scene, and then close your eyes, and then reimagine that scene. Not for long periods of time, not 10 or 20 seconds, but just take a minute and look at it again, and then open your eyes again and reimagine it or re-see it again, and then close your eyes and get a good fixed mental image of it again. This is called, that internal image, by the way, is what is actually called the nimitta. So that the internal
Oh,
spot, okay, that internal salayatana now has become a nimitta, because you're opening your eyes and look, and then you're closing your eyes and say, yeah, I can see so much. And then open your eyes again and take another look, and then close them again until pretty soon you begin to see in much better detail than we did before. This really is literally an eye opener, this practice.
yeah. Okay.
It opens that third eye, as it would be, is by really looking and then closing the eyes and recollecting that image, and then opening the eyes again. So in this regard, what that means is that we're actually getting the images much more vivid, much more clear. brighter.
And so we can make a change to the image because it's more stable.
It's not stable. That's exactly right. That it's going to move. And so in this practice, you want to come back to the reality to reestablish that, and then bring it in, so that begins to also to slow it down, so that that image that we just had of the outside world doesn't rot into an image of Aunt Susie or something. That you can stay with that image over and over again. And so this is actually part of the meditation practice that was done before the time of the Buddha.
Okay.
Okay, of taking an object at a distance, or they also have what they would call fire meditations, which would be gazing into a fire.
Or the kasinas,
Yeah, these
okay.
are the kasinas, and then you would close your eyes and you'd recreate that flame as an image in your mind. And then you'd open your eyes and see the flame again. Okay, so these are the kind of things, and this actually has some value to practice these things, because it helps to settle the mind down, as well as begin to collect data better.
Okay.
See, we look at stuff, we don't even pay attention to it at all until we like it. And then we get hooked on it because we like it. Or we don't like it. But we do that liking and unliking ignorantly. And so we miss out on almost everything else. Here we're beginning to expand or open that vision. I'm glad you asked me about this. Yes, I haven't talked to students about this much. But learning to use the mind in a way that actually gains some strength with these images. I'd really like to hear where this practice is going for you. So call me back.
Yeah, okay.
I want to hear about it for you to go ahead.
So I've noticed is that sometimes I can see the association of image. I see an image, and if I look at it, there is another one that associates, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yes.
it's like that face, that face, that face, that face, that face, that face. And that's quite interesting to look. And honestly,
Yes.
I enjoy it a lot.
Mm-hmm. And so by doing this, you actually now begin to understand and learn how the mind actually works, which will give you even more control over it.
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead and finish now. I think that this is enough for you to get to practice. In fact, we've covered two things. One is how to brighten the mind when you're sick, and another one is to start playing with the images.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. All right, Martin. We'll see you later. Call again.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I really enjoy our conversation. It's good.
Thank you, Dhammarato. See you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.